With Chainsaw Man Chapter 153, the story basically takes our expectations, it whispers sweet nothings into our ears, and then it hits us with the Roman Reigns Superman punch out of nowhere and shatters us. We ended the last chapter with Denji telling Nayuta to run away and get as far away from him as possible, and we open up this chapter getting a different reality altogether because Nayuta takes Denji's warning to leave him alone and completely ignores it, showing us that despite her being the reincarnation of the Control Devil, there's still actually some hope for her to not completely end up turning into another Makima, because as we've seen, she's shown signs of being both redeemable and being the second coming of Makima. It just comes down to which path she chooses. This chapter continues to give us both sides of that in a very well executed way. We open up with Denji slaughtering the devil hybrids in his way, blood and guts all over the place, covering his entire body in blood, but as he looks around expecting the humans watching to praise him for the work that he's done, Denji falls over, leaking out more blood, and watching the angry mob of humans approaching Denji is Nayuta, who is both hurt and confused by Denji's last words where he told her to leave him alone, to run away from him, and that she would be better off without him. You can tell that the reality of those words is starting to set in, and from a character perspective, it makes total sense. Nayuta has just been through a lot. For all of Denji's suffering, Nayuta has her own trauma that she's processing in real time. Those dogs that she used to walk every day and Meowie, the cat that Power gave to Denji to take care of, they've just been burned alive. Their home is now in flames, and now they're all homeless. They have nowhere to go. And in times like that, a child would normally look towards the adult to follow their direction, and Denji basically went F them kids when it came to Nayuta's safety. We as the audience get why he did that, but Nayuta, even for as smart as she is, she's still processing this reality because at the end of the day, she is still a child. Adding to that trauma is the citizens attacking Denji with weapons, and even when they hear that he can speak and they have Fumiko vouching for Denji as being safe to be around and not their enemy to worry about, they still treat him like he's less than human, and it's another continuation of the constant theme that we've been getting with the story, the gradual dehumanization of Denji as a character. Denji is trapped in a net, unable to move at full capacity, and you can see the confusion in his words, and it gives you a moment where you go, really? You're going to trap Chainsaw Man, the guy with literal chainsaws in his body, inside of a net and all thing? That makes no sense, because if he wanted to, he could escape, but we see it here. Denji doesn't want to harm humans, but that doesn't mean that he won't harm a human, as we're about to see. Even when Denji tries to assure them by saying that he's really on their side and that there is nothing to worry about, it doesn't work. They continue to attack him and pour lighter fluid on his body with the intention of burning him alive. And you can see it's slowly happening where Denji is going from being confused to just getting pissed off, but he's controlling his anger. Killing a human, an innocent one at that, that's a line that he isn't trying to cross. It's an interesting moral quandary for Denji because we've seen he's not above letting humans die, particularly the ones who don't have breasts or other certain lady parts, like when he's more than once been shown going, that's a guy, I'll go save the lady, or I'll go save the cat instead of saving him. It's something that earlier on in the story, Mitaka, who unknowingly was talking to Chainsaw Man by talking to Denji, said on the rooftop that discussed her that Chainsaw Man will only save women like some horny sex-driven pig. Well, what we see here is Denji slowly getting to that boiling point where a line where he wouldn't normally cross, he's got no problems crossing now. Shown when he sees Nayuta getting talked down to and getting shouted at, when she's trying to speak reason into the guy who lost his wife to these fake chainsaw men because he watched his wife's head turn into a chainsaw. He says to her that if they kill the real chainsaw man, then maybe his wife will turn back to normal. And even a child in Nayuta, albeit a very smart child, but a child nonetheless, even Nayuta understands that the logic behind these words, it doesn't make sense, and it's Fumiko giving us an important commentary on the state of the human experience. When it comes to grief and heartbreak and other intense emotions such as that, there is no amount of reasoning that you can use with a person. Love in of itself is an emotion that defies the very principles of logic. How many times do you hear someone say, you love who you love, or the heart wants what it desires? Love is one of those things that nobody is ever seemingly able to fully figure out. Yet for hundreds of years, there have been romantic tales about love and tragic tales about love. This situation is no different. This is a man so grief-stricken over his wife that he is looking for something, anything to turn things back to the way they should be, yet he can't find the answer for how to save his wife. That leaves them desperately trying to place the blame onto Denji, someone who is right there to shoulder the blame. On one hand, you see the logic in his thinking. These people, like his wife, they have chainsaws. Maybe killing the real Chainsaw Man will change things back to normal. Yet you have a variable of this kid in Denji who is the real Chainsaw Man, and he wasn't transforming into Chainsaw Man for weeks, months on end. Can we really correlate these two things as being connected? We know that you can't, but love blinds people, and when the blind lead the blind, you get situations like this. He lashes out and he puts hands on Nayuta, and that's the one thing that makes Denji snap. He cuts off the arms of a few humans in the process, trying to get his way back to Nayuta, and what's crazy about this is that Denji actually shows some restraint because he could have just butchered everyone in sight. They were already using his actions to further dehumanize him by saying he's no different than a devil by attacking humans, yet Denji just cuts off all the hands he sees. While it's still a big deal, if the people do get medical treatment quick enough, it's not going to kill them like cutting their heads off or slicing their stomachs open with chainsaws would have done. This leads to an older woman grabbing Nayuta and telling her that Denji isn't her family anymore and to come with her, but as Nayuta watches Denji getting attacked in a brutal fashion, Nayuta finally snaps herself, but instead of killing the humans here directly, she takes over the body of the woman using her control powers and makes her start defending Denji while she herself is shouting for Denji to run away. What's interesting about this ending is that it continues the whole concept of nature versus nurture. It's in Nayuta's nature as a devil to hate humans, yet here she is following Denji's lead and not killing any of the humans because she saw Denji, despite having every reason to do so and being more than capable of doing it, he still practices restraint and he doesn't kill humans. Nayuta is doing the same thing here, and it's because of how Denji nurtured her, hence nature versus nurture. Her nature is to be like Makima. Denji nurtured her to be the Nayuta we know and love. It's not enough to say that when she gets around Fami or Yoru that she won't revert back, but for the time being, she's still the Nayuta who Denji raised, and by telling Chainsaw Man, i.e. Denji, to run away, you have to go back to the start of the chapter where she seemed like she was in shock over the idea of Denji telling her to leave him, and now she's telling him to leave her for the same reason, because it's too dangerous. And just as Denji wanted what was best for her, one could say she wants what's best for Denji by having him leave the scene before he ends up having to accidentally kill one of the humans, further stroking more of the fear of people growing towards Chainsaw Man, which is gonna lead to my question: do you think this chapter proves that Nayuta can be redeemed, or was she given to her nature as a devil to hate humans? Because I do think it is something that we have to consider as a possibility, because like Fujimoto right now is clearly setting us up for either Makima's reincarnation going one of two ways: either she continues to be the girl that Denji has nurtured, or she ends up becoming a worse version of Makima. It goes back to the foreshadowing in Chainsaw Man Part 1. Kishibe told Denji when he gave Nayuta that, hey, we're giving her to you to see what she can become. We don't want her to become another Makima. So this is going to be interesting.